to you and welcome to the news tonight on DBS television. Tonight we'll look at how in the Ancien Troisième neighborhood in Douala, a group of young Cameroonians put bread on their table daily by repairing mobile telephones and other electronics. Often good at their jobs, just where do they receive the necessary training? Find out in tonight's newscast. We shall equally take you to Côte d'Ivoire, where former Prime Minister and rebel leader Guillaume Soro is slammed a life imprisonment sentence following a 2019 coup d'etat against President Alassane Ouattara. These are some of the elements we shall be getting tonight. Stay with us and get them, as well as several other stories when we return shortly, so don't go away. Thank you for joining us on tonight's edition of the news here on DBS television. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I am Cynthia Ngwemu. We go straight on to open this newscast from the littoral region, and notably here in Douala, where a popular hotel, which is still a new one, has gone on fire this afternoon. The institute, or rather the structure known as Marriott Metropolitan Hotel, situated at the Terminus Saint-Michel neighborhood of the city, caught fire today afternoon at about 3 p.m., releasing thick clouds of smoke into the air and alerting the population. Inhabitants and workers of the neighborhood, highly a commercial one, came out to see the fire for themselves. The fire rescue unit answered present to put out the flames and succeeded to save a great part of the structure. While material damage was recorded, no life loss was, however, recorded in this incident. On to other stories. The government of Cameroon has strongly condemned the sexual abuse of an 18-year-old young Cameroonian lady known as Malika Bayemi, who is currently at the center of a sex tape scandal implicating renowned Cameroonian sports commentator Martin Camus-Mim. The phenomenon of sexual abuse on minors and young girls and the immoral use of their images on social media was the core of a press briefing granted by the Minister of Women's Empowerment and the Family, Professor Marie-Thérèse Abena-Ondua, this Wednesday, June 23. Let's get an excerpt of her declaration as selected by Ate Bonaventure.
This fact, which contributes to depriving our youth of their dignity, are becoming rampant and are commented with unspeakable violence and thus exposing the victim to the public condemnation. The act in itself is horrible. Now, disclosing it in public is even more despicable. These activities are punishable by our criminal code. I wish to seize this opportunity to strongly denounce these heinous and unethical acts which are turning young women into an object, transforming her into a sex doll devoid of any value. I therefore call for the synergy of actions from all stakeholders in the fight against these ills, notably government, legal, political, traditional, and religious authorities and civil society, for them to engage in a merciless battle against the perpetrators.
On to this societal story, or still in societal news, like you saw on the headline, Mange Venasius now takes us to the Marché Congo neighborhood of the city of Douala, and notably at the part of the market known as Ancien Troisième, an area which is reputed for the repair of mobile telephones and other electronic devices. In this report, we shall explore the activities of the repairers, but equally seek to understand the training that makes them fit for the job. Let's get that in the next report with Mange Venasius.
Focus, concentrated with very little and delicate parts in search of a fault that might be the cause of the malfunction. This is the duty of phone repairers in Marché Congo in Douala, an occupation that has employed a number of young people. The curiosity here is finding out where they were trained to become professional phone repairers.
We are in different categories. There are some technicians who have learned their own from our institute in Bamenda and some other electronic institute in Yaoundé. Some of us, we do maintenance. We do amendments. You come with your screen that is broken. We open from behind, as we see from the other people doing it. They will see how the connections are going behind the motherboard of the phone. Then from there, we learn a tip.
Like the Latin proverb says, repetitio et marte studiorum, constant and perhaps daily manipulation of different phone brands and marks broaden their know-how.
As times unfold, we continue to learn more, like changing the charging system, something like microphone and speakers. Those are the basic technical stuff that we know here.
They say the differences in these phones are not much. Basic knowledge on them is enough to handle new phone brands.
Like a technician, they have just some small differences. If you have opened maybe an old phone, a phone from maybe last year or last 2 years, the one for 2021, there's not much different. They will either change just the capacity maybe on the camera, or they increase the power of the battery.
All that matters is concentrating on the layout of the phone. Limited as they may be, they accept that time and again they are faced with challenges, but they handle it among themselves.
Yes, of course, you can. That's why I said some of us who do maintenance, we take those cases to the ones that study from maybe higher institutes, or we take it to them. And when they are doing it, we also put an eye on it. So by so doing, we learn.
It is through such cases that they learn and pass on the knowledge to others. An informal training that is within reach for many.
To me, it's 2-3 months. Then I will take him to a higher level. That he needs to open an iPhone where we have completed resistances on the phone. That's when we take him more higher.
They use diverse screwdrivers, charging apparatus, and laptops to enable them at times to go online when faced with difficulties. As we gradually become addicted to our cell phones, that is a sure fact that this sector has come to stay, since these phones get bad so often.
For these repairers, of course, experience may be the best teacher after all. With that, we move on to other stories in Cameroon, as the country's Minister of Housing and Urban Development, CÉLESTINE COURTÈS, has become the new president of the General Assembly of Shelter Afrique. She comes to replace her Kenyan counterpart, James Macharia. Her position was made official today during a general meeting which is ongoing in Yaoundé. Let's hear her as she tackles or talks about Cameroon's benefits as a member country of the Pan-African Housing Company, Shelter Afrique.
It is interesting to note that Cameroon is amongst the first beneficiaries of Shelters Afrique products from inception. Shelter Afrique, as we all know, is the only Pan-African institution created in 1982 by African government, the African Development Bank, the African Reinsurance Corporation, and CDC, with the mission of mobilizing resources for the promotion of housing in Africa.
We now take you to other stories which happen in the far north region of Cameroon. As part of commemorative activities of the International Day for the Fight Against Drought as well as desertification, the regional delegation of environment has embarked on an exercise to plant a number of trees in the campus of the University of Maroua and equally in the town. This comes to solve the problem of shortage of trees in this campus but equally in the town, which is of course one of the leading causes of drought. Ekokobe Remi Carol gives us details.
The Kongola Djulguf site of the University of Maroua lacks trees. Students and lecturers barely have places to shed themselves due to the absence of trees in the institution. In order to fight against desertification and drought, students have strongly mobilized to plant trees around their campus. This was an initiative of the Regional Environmental Delegation This activity was presided over by the governor of the region, Mijiawa Bakari, who reminded everyone of the importance of planting trees, especially in this region, which is plagued by desertification and drought.
Due to the fact that people are cutting trees and doing roads for their houses, we do think that we need to call each and every one. Be careful, because tree is alive.
The regional environmental delegation chose 2 species of young trees to be planted, the neem tree and cassia from Siam. The reforestation activity of the Kongola Julgov site of the University of Marwa is part of the commemoration of the International Day to Fight Against Desertification and Drought, whose theme focuses on transforming a degraded land into a healthy land.
Still in the far north, the Regional Council has held their first meeting where a number of decisions were taken in view of the public investment budget. The decisions were particularly geared towards improving economic and social conditions in this region. They include the construction of boreholes and equally the equipping of the council hall, as Nde Vanessa Shuyong tells us in the next report.
The population of the Far North region is estimated at more than 4 million persons, and more than half live in precarious conditions according to statistics from the United Nations Development Programme. Based on these data, regional councillors during the first ordinary session devoted for the study and adoption of regional budget have opted to revamp the socio-economic sector of the region delayed by security crisis.
The equipment of the regional council and acquisition of some equipment for road maintenance and also for water.
They reviewed and adopted the PIB worth 1,740 million francs CFA, a budgetary allocation which will also be used to prepare a strategic plan for building the region.
In order that when the transfer is done, we will start immediately without waiting. And tomorrow we have our strategic plan to be discussed, and will give us new ideas, and will give us, this plan will give us guide us for the next 5 years.
After 3 days of exchange and debate on outstanding regional projects and initiatives, the councillors will continue the consultations with a seminar on the applicable legal framework to regions and program budgeting with experts from the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development.
Wednesday, June 23, was observed worldwide as the International Day of the Widow, a day which is aimed at raising awareness on the plight of widows in society. In the following excerpt, we have the Douala II Subdivisional Delegate of Women's Empowerment and the Family, who outlines what has been done in Cameroon to abolish some traditional practices that go contrary to the dignity of a woman. Let's listen as selected by Mange Venasius.
Cameroon administration have adopted the international conventions like the Charter de Maputo, who is protecting women and children rights. We also have national laws who stipulate that traditional practice which are contrary to the national laws should not be practiced anymore. But how many people, how many communities do respect those laws? The main problem with the traditional leaders, they should be the one to become human. They should be the one to become the real leaders and protect the widows and orphans, because widows and orphans are still members of one community.
On to news out of Cameroon. Like you got on our headline, former Ivorian Prime Minister and rebel leader Guillaume Soro has been slammed a 10-year, or rather a life imprisonment sentence following his role in a 2019 coup d'etat against now President Alassane Ouattara. Also in Mozambique, southern African nations have come together and agreed to a military deployment to the northern part of the country, which is hit by conflicts. Let's have more of these stories in the following with Rogia Tububa.
Ivory Coast former rebel leader and Prime Minister Guillaume Soro has been sentenced to life imprisonment in absentia on charges of plotting a coup against President Alassane Ouattara in 2019. The verdict came after 49-year-old Soro, who has been in exile in Europe for about 2 years, was charged with conspiracy and an attempted attack on state authority. His lawyers have previously condemned the charges as politically motivated and declared there was no evidence to show he was guilty. 2 other defendants, Soro's close associates, received 20-year sentence. 2 of his brothers and his former aide got 17 months jail terms for disturbing public order. Leader of the rebellion that controlled the northern half of Ivory Coast in the 2000s, Guillaume Soro has militarily helped Alassane Ouattara come to power during the post-election crisis of 2010-11 against incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo, who refused to admit defeat at the ballot box. Soro went on to serve as Prime Minister and Speaker of Parliament under Ouattara, but the 2 men later fell out as the president made clear he would oppose Soro's own presidential ambitions. Over in Mozambique, a bloc of southern African nations have approved the deployment of troops to help combat an escalating Islamic State-linked insurgency that threatens stability in the relatively peaceful region. Nearly 3,000 people have been killed and almost 800,000 have been forced from their homes in the Cabo Delgado province since the conflict began in 2017. At the end of a one-day summit, the 16-member bloc of southern African countries approved the deployment of a standby force in support of Mozambique to combat terrorism. The standby force is part of a regional defense pact that allows military intervention to prevent the spread of conflict. The brief statement issued after a summit in Mozambique's capital did not give details on the size of the force or when troops will be sent. The decision ends months of deliberation and disagreement within the bloc about what is needed to stem an insurgency that threatens to open up southern Africa's first jihadist front. On March 24th, Islamic State-linked militants launched coordinated attacks on the northern town of Palma, ransacking buildings and murdering residents as thousands fled into the surrounding forest.
That's what we gathered for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching the news and see you tomorrow for the last edition of the week. Until then, goodbye. Enjoy DBS Television.